more nuts. Good. Danny, clean shaven. Whoa. Styling.
May not be able to do the timer. Here we go.
Oh, look at that.
Beautiful. Congratulations. What me?
Yeah, well, you had some part of it.
Yeah, right.
You had some earlier part of it. If you want to speak.
Sit over this way for the break.
Yeah, I know, that's why I'm back here.
And I think you want to speak on it.
Glad we got some rain.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Very
Nice to see you.
New grandbaby, my first. Girl, Naomi, 6 pounds. Everybody's good. Daughter-in-law was champ. Son. No, just kidding. So I told my daughter-in-law, I said, no, this is pregnant because he just didn't get Mom,
Jeans.
we got something. Oh my God, you're good. I don't know if I we're happy. Yeah.
He's one of the owners.
I think so.
Yes, I remember this.
He was born last year. So it turned out really. Yeah.
So she gets behind me and made a little shake.
No, yeah. Turned out.
I think that's supposed to be derogatory.
I'm happy with you saying
Yeah,
yeah, that's true. New baby is.
Be careful.
I haven't got to see it. We go to these one at a time. We got dogs, crazy stuff.
I mean, I'm cut that anyway. Is he going to go like this weekend?
You know, I don't know when, because he's even the type he'll right up there in my back, but they're in the woodlands, so it's 3.5 hours. There's not a whole lot he can do. I mean, I was helping him kind of, I was doing laundry and he could do laundry, but it may never, the laundry may never be the
Same, right?
When I married him, he used to do his own laundry. It was like t-shirts, jeans.
He's coming, I think he's getting the mail.
Yeah, so I thought, oh,
He's here, but just not here.
Yeah, I did not bring copies. I didn't find out.
All right, we'll feed the dogs. We'll give them that's that.
Where you want to speak?
Oh, yes, that's right.
Asked us to find out something. They do a corner. Oh, that's one of our plans. On the back side. Right. I worked with her today. We were at the, I was at work with girls there. For 2 months. So, yeah, what's the big up here? She's on better. Or how to find it, or have a place to find it.
Is she right on the corner down there? Right up behind.
They work behind
Well, they're next to the next property. They're really back. I went through and I go, I think that's supposed to be east. I don't remember for less. I think there is a little round like down
A little bit, if anything. Next to the one back there. That's on the shelf for a while.
County Market.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. It's her report.
His son, he has
Maybe they got somebody to help them out.
and shave it. It wasn't the first time.
So all of these, we're getting up under legal. So you think saying,
so they'd have to pay it over.
so should I say $7,000? Where was that?
Anybody sign in to speak? Rubber, hold your peace.
Oh, did I sign the wrong one?
Yeah. Yeah. And then we'll pass this one around. Here now. You want this one? No, this is the speak. Oh, okay. This is the speak. Did you sign this one too? First speak was Peter. Thank you, sir. This is a sign-in sheet, so if everybody can sign it. We're here. Yeah.
Yeah, I fell for that last time and you made me speak.
Everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay. Oops. Hang on a second. Paper's flying. The Windermere Oaks Water Supply Corporation Board meeting for June 20th, 2024 at 6 p.m. I call to order. Roll call.
Scott Miller?
Present.
Ryan Garza?
Brian, Jeff Walker is here. Okay, we're quickly rolling through the first two items. Okay, item number 3, open for public comment. There are 3 people who want to speak. We'll start with Alan Hicks.
See my time, Danny.
C to Danny. Okay. Ken, you're next.
Chris and I were at the hospital today, she had to do some training, and we bumped into another nurse, Jean, who lives at 332 Bedford, and she said she's still at work, so she couldn't make the meeting, but she said the last 2 months next to Alan was hot. She said for the last 2 months they have bad water, they're having problems taking showers.
Okay.
I mean, it sounded like they
What was that address?
332 Bedford.
332 Bedford. Okay.
She wasn't sure how to report it, so I told her maybe on the website.
Did she call the hotline?
I told
You
her
don't know?
to go on the website and see it. She apparently didn't know anything about that, so.
Okay. How can I contact her? Do you have her number?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'll have somebody reach out to her. You know, I'll send a note to Lori tonight to put a call in. We'll probably have it in a couple days. Yeah. That's weird. That's really weird. Okay. Is that all you had?
Thank you.
Perfect. That's the way there should be. Hang on a second, Danny, as I clear the timer. Okay, Danny Flunker.
9 from this trial. Also, please bear in mind that we should decide to sell the property with fiduciary responsibility to advertise it for sale and accept the highest offer. Date stamp 035. Also, please bear in mind that should we decide to sell the property, we have a fiduciary responsibility to advertise it for sale and accept the highest bidder. Then, I wanted to read one paragraph out of a TRWA Q&A written by Trent Hightower. Our WSC is looking to sell unneeded piece of property. And the line I want to read is the very last line. It is in our corporation's best interest to let the bidding process produce the highest purchase price possible. This cannot happen if one person is given the first and only chance to buy the property. If you're interested in it, I know Aaron can get a copy of it. I have a copy of it. And then I had a real issue with, on the agenda that it said, what was the wording you used for the sale of the property? Whatever. Anyway, I don't remember the word you used. Like the contract was.
This past month's agenda?
This agenda today, what's it say on
This
this?
month's agenda.
Blind offer.
Blind offer. I'm going to read a portion of a text message that Patty got from Jeff Walker on February 29th. This could be a good thing for the airport. Less hangars being built, worldwide exposure, etc., etc. Bad for WSC, less tap water fees, etc. That list could go on, but it could be also be positive thing for WSC as structure site. Now, please keep this between us. I've asked that they get the WSC in the conversation ASAP. No, nothing blind about the offer. Now I'd like to read as much as I can get done from the filing today that the ratepayer reps filed, and it says, is the ratepayer representative for PUC docket 507888 who is closely monitored the compliance report submitted by Windermere Water Supply Corporation. These reports are essential for ensuring adherence to the directives established by docket 50788, which demand the highest standards of accuracy. Unfortunately, we have identified several inaccuracies in the latest compliance report filed in the PUC docket 56272, which we feel compelled to bring to your attention. Our intention is not to become a party in this docket, but to ensure that the refunds and surcharges ordered by the Commission are accurately implemented according to actual billing and refunds. We wish to highlight the following issues. Refunds for non-existing sewer service. This report inaccurately states that all ratepayers are receiving refunds for sewer service. Notably, about 20 ratepayers, including Ms. Flunker, maintain 2 accounts, have no sewer connection, are included in this group erroneously. This raises significant concerns regarding both the report accuracy and financial implications of refunding customers who are not eligible. Omissions of customers with exclusive water and sewer service. This report fails to correctly identify customers who only receive sewer services that are erroneously listed as receiving water service refunds too. Customers are located in the Spicewell Airport area, a fact established in the PUC docket number 50788, yet overlooked in the current report. Lack of detailed customer information. Unlike previous submissions, such as the detailed billing register from RFI 827 in the PUC docket 50788, this report lacks sufficient detail. It does not specify whether account numbers have been transferred to new customers or if the customers have received new account numbers, leading potential inaccuracies in refund allocation. Number 4, improper refund and surcharge distributions. The report suggests that refunds were issued to nearly 65 individuals who were not customers when the revised rates commenced in April of 2020. This premature distribution is likely to distort financial records due to over-refunding. Legal authority to charge a surcharge. Despite previous rulings, PUC docket 50788, Windermere has not updated their tariff and bylaws to include a surcharge. This oversight contravenes our governing doctrines and requires immediate action. The discrepancies noted are significant and necessitate urgent attention to ensure the integrity and compliance reporting process. That's it. Thank you.
Hey Jeff, I sent that to your email. Chris.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
info.
Good. All right, thank you. I'll reach out to them. Okay, that's the end of public comment. Approval of board minute meetings from June 1st. These minutes have been reviewed by our legal team and by board members. I make a motion that we approve the minutes from June 1st meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those minutes will be approved, and they will be posted hopefully tonight. Okay, on to deliberation and discussion of real estate. You taking that one, Ryan?
Deliberation and discussion of the real estate.
On the real estate committee.
Yeah. Okay, so essentially, all right, thank you very much. I get what you're asking now. All right.
Yeah, sorry.
So we reconstituted the real estate committee to do a couple things for us. First of all, to complete an appraisal of the property that we've been discussing for the past several meetings, maybe further than that. Jeff, if you need a description of that property, Jeff can do it, but I think we all understand which property we're talking about. So what we'd like to do and what we've requested is for the real estate committee to present what they have so far as the appraisal goes. Hopefully it's completed, but let's find out. Let's start with that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We've been busy. With a lot of information, we try to determine what would be the best way to present this information. If you're looking for actual appraisal, and we don't have numbers for that. Kind of a long way off from that, I think. So I'll just read this to you. I gave a copy of it. I have some extra copies if you guys want this when I'm done. So there's some background information. I'll start with that. Before the establishment of Windermere Oaks Water Supply Corporation, the utility operated as an investor-owned utility named Clear Springs Utility. Initially part of the Chase Corporation, its ownership included Charles Winston, the developer of Windermere Oaks PLA, and was later taken over by Michael Lucas. The transition of ownership from an IOU to a WSC occurred in 1996. This transfer included all the properties that the previous IOU had owned, which are now sites of our current facilities. These properties comprise the lots in Windermere, home to our water treatment plant, over 50 acres to the east of Exeter, 4 acres at Spicewood Airport, the site of both the former wastewater ponds and the current lift station. In addition, 2+ acres at Spicewood Airport previously utilized for boat storage parking by property owners. The process of assessing all properties transferred to WOWC has been intricate due to the multiple restrictions, easements, and encumbrances associated with them. These properties have undergone numerous divisions and changes in use over time, which is adding complexity to their management, and consequently, our focus has narrowed to specific properties, particularly the 4-acre site of the former wastewater ponds and the current lift station, along with the former boat storage area, which the board is considering selling to Vector Approach. Our detailed examination of these properties, especially the 4 acres, involves evaluating access, pipeline connections, and other critical infrastructure. We have particularly concentrated on the lift station that services Tennis Village, channeling wastewater to the treatment plant. This targeted analysis is essential for understanding the current value and potential of these properties as we compare to the possible transactions. The property located at 4.027, which formerly housed the wastewater ponds, currently includes a critical lift station. And I don't know if y'all were aware that there's a lift station on this property. This lift station facilitates the transportation of sewage from Tennis Village to the treatment facility on the east side of Exeter. The infrastructure extends across 4.027 acres and into adjacent property formerly owned by WOWSC and recently sold to Dana Martin, who subsequently sold it to Vector Approach. Regulatory compliance for this site is governed by the Texas Administration Code Title 30, Chapter 217. Specifically, Section 21759 outlines lift station site requirements. According to these regulations, a lift station shall be accessible via a right-of-way or a permanent easement, be accessible by truck in all weather conditions, capable of withstanding a 25-year, 24-hour rain ensure a road surface accessing the lift station with a minimum width of 12 feet. Security measures are stringently defined under these regulations to prevent unauthorized access. Requirements include restricted access to the lift station, protecting all mechanical and electrical equipment, an intruder-resistant fence or enclosure approved in writing by the executive director with locked access points. The fence must be at least 6 foot tall with the base close to the surface to prevent human injury. Construction materials for the fence should be wood, concrete, masonry, or metal with other materials permissible upon written approval. The fence must be topped with at least 3 strands of barbed wire unless it is at least 8 foot tall. Optionally, the fence can create outwardly directed iron bars instead of barbed wire. Effective odor control measures must be implemented to prevent the lift station from becoming a nuisance. Given these regulatory requirements, it is essential that Windermere Oaks Water Supply Corporation ensures compliance, especially if contemplating the sale of the property. This includes exercising easement rights through the property recently sold by Dana Martin located on the north side. For legal and regulatory adherence, it is recommended that if this property is sold, the wastewater lift station be surveyed and segregated into its own parcel. This step is crucial to ensure compliance with Texas statutes regarding lift station operations and to secure the necessary access and security measures mandated by law. As a point of reference, it's important to note that back in 2023, representatives from the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality conducted an evaluation of this lift station and identified several violations concerning the fencing, locks, and odor control measures. This assessment highlights existing compliance issues that need to be addressed to meet CCEQ regulations effectively. So wrapping it up on the 4 acres, I know it's a lot of information, but for wrapping it up on the 4 acres, having an appraisal conducted with the lift station included on the property is not feasible and will not yield a legitimate appraisal until we separate it from the property we intend to sell. To ensure a valid and effective appraisal, it is essential to first segregate the lift station onto its own distinct parcel. This separation will clarify the valuation of the property intended for sale by removing the complexities associated with the lift station's operational and regulatory requirements. We are currently working with companies to review easements, maintaining a careful consideration of expense. The convoluted nature of deeds and easements accumulated over the years often necessitates thorough checks and balances to verify their legitimacy. We have found that the easement Ms. Martin conveyed to the water company was actually unnecessary. It has come to our attention that Charles Winston had previously granted a perpetual easement over the same property, which was assigned to the water company, which includes a 50-foot wide area that can be used as a taxiway easement. We are still determining the exact dimensions of this easement and whether it extends to our back property. We expect to have a definitive answer by tomorrow. As far as the property to the east of Exeter Road, based on a few deeds we pulled, it appears Charles Winston placed many restrictions on that property of no mobile homes and temporary buildings, but also that the property can only be used for utility purposes and must run with the land permanently. So to wrap it up, prior to any sale of the land, the lift station will need to be put on its own plat off land and ensure that through water property there is developed access to lift station through a utility easement for CEQ. So I know it's a lot of information, but we start at one place, and our goal was to get a price the property. And when speaking to the property appraiser, he advised us that until we clarify and clean up all these issues, especially the deeds that go back years, to understand who did what, when, where, what pieces of property were cut off, what were handed to someone else. You can't get a proper valuation on the property. And so, given that to you guys, it's up to the board to decide where they want this real estate committee to continue to go, or if they decide to move forward with the sale of the property. It's up to them at this point. The information is for you guys to digest, and
If anybody wants a copy of this, I have it.
A lot of good information, Michelle, thanks. It looks like most of this information would detract from the value of the property, is that right? All the restrictions you were talking about?
Well, I'm not sure, we don't have a proper assessment on it.
All right, so we have,
Question?
I have a question. So this pump station that you talked about, sewer pump station, is it like right out in the middle of this property, or?
No, it's on
Put
the,
out one end, one corner?
it's on the northeast, it's fenced off, it has its own, if you look at the plat, it's already platted off. What the problem is, and it was noted by the Vector Group when they bought Dana's property. There's one clarification on paragraph 5, I do believe, when you said Windermere Oaks and recently sold to Dana Martin. And that property wasn't recently sold to Dana Martin, that was in 2016. They recently sold it to Vector Air. Vector Air discovered it after they closed on the property, that they had a pipe, they have one of our 8-inch sewer lines running from the pump station all the way under the taxiway, hangars, runway, over to Exeter here, to that station, because that used to be the old pond. There's also some old pipes that are sitting on to the south of that pump station where they used to do a discharge into the pond. So that easement needs to be established, and Vector was aware of it at the time when they bought the property and is working to grant an easement to the water company based on exactly, almost identical to what they stated right here. But they own that front part. They're going to grant that to us. It's a handshake right now. It should have been caught before, and it wasn't identified. So they're going to grant it from the taxiway all the way back to the pump station. So, well, going across their property, they'll grant it. They realize it. They weren't aware of it, and then we'll take over from there because it's our property behind that we have to leave that an easement capable to go back and that pump station. That pump station does not only do Tennis Village, it does most 3/4 of Windermere Oaks, because all the old pump stations were pumping into that one, and that one was pumping into the field. This was according to Tammy Eggert at AWR. Austin Water Resources, our operator.
So you told the real estate committee all this?
What?
You already told the real estate committee all this?
No, I'm reiterating what they found was exactly true.
Maybe if you'd have told them, they wouldn't have had to go find it.
I didn't know this, Bruce.
How'd you know it? Now you just know it now? You just read it?
No, I found out about it on Tuesday of this week.
Oh, it's
when I talked to.
It's always yesterday you find out.
No,
about stuff.
there was a lot of information that was available to the real estate committee, but they haven't reached out. I've sent a lot of things to them, Bruce. So, yeah.
Sounds like they're spinning their wheels for nothing to me.
No, I mean they have access to the operator. When they found out about it, I actually made a call. Tammy called me back and they said, "Is there anything else that we need to know about this?" Because Vector Air told me about it. Vector Air told me about it. Watch that easement because.
So you guys are willing to sell the property without explaining to this community or understanding what the easements are, because that's what you're going to do. You said you just found out about it on Tuesday.
I did.
Why didn't you tell them?
Why?
You've had 48 hours to tell them.
Why did you not know this information when you were going to
That's
sell
worth the phone call right there. Hey,
well, I'm sorry, Bruce. We were having a meeting here. I didn't.
48 hours. You
Excuse me.
not told
Okay.
anybody.
Hang me up for that. I didn't call about the easement. Sorry.
Excuse me, you tried to have a status call with them for that opportunity, and they refused.
Very good point. No, Bruce, that was a very.
You could have emailed that. You could have easily emailed that.
I did ask for a status call.
They didn't want to call, and you don't want it.
Now, if you wanted a status call from them, that's one thing. If you wanted to share information with them, you could have shared it. You could have said, I've got something you need to know about.
Just keep it quiet. That's how you work. We get it. We get it.
And I don't know why you're sitting at that table. That's their attorney right there.
Okay, you're full of
shit.
I'm
That's
sorry.
their attorney right
Danny,
there.
if you say it one more
That's their
time, you're
attorney
going
right
to have
there.
a problem. That's not true.
He's going to sue you, Danny. Look out.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And I can do it for free.
Good.
Yeah, go for it.
Get after it.
Hey,
Get after it.
So let's return to the agenda.
Don't even have a fucking water.
Michelle, thank you very much. There's a lot of really good historical information in there. There's a lot of additional information that I would assume anyone doing an appraisal is going to want to look into in more detail.
We have to do more detail on the deeds. someone that's been helping us, but again, you know, they don't do it for free.
Sure.
And so it depends on how far you guys want to go with cleaning up the deeds, so you know what you're selling. And that'll take some time, a little bit of time, and a little bit of cost.
Oh, that's fine, we only got 60 days.
So from my perspective, from the last meeting, when the conversation about an appraisal was brought up, as I recall, and I could be wrong, I'm getting old, the thought was that all of the detail was available to give to an appraiser, have it done fairly, right, exactly, have it done fairly quickly. So when I came to the meeting, my expectation was that we'd have an appraisal, maybe a couple on letterhead, right? And with some prices, right? Hopefully. I mean, that would have been ideal, right? We don't have that.
But it would be ideal not to have a mess of bad decisions made over years.
No argument.
Deeds and handshakes and not proper title searches done, and then sales are being done without proper information, without understanding and knowing what your easements are, understanding and knowing what you have to be providing for a lift station, what you should do for it. So, you know, those are all things, these problems didn't occur overnight, and they won't get fixed and understood overnight.
Okay. Yeah, no argument with anything you just said. What I'm talking about is managing expectations, right? So, like I said, what I heard in the last meeting is not quite what actually transpired and got us to this period.
Sure, I talked to a gentleman who was interested in doing the appraisal, but his advice to me was to go and have someone do the deed searches and understand what your easements are. Clean up and understand, do the research on your deed. Heritage Title did a preliminary title search, but they didn't go back. They went 1 or 2 deeds back. These problems started in 1992. So you have to go back to the original deed and see what transpired since 1992 and how many times someone changed the deed, sold the property, cut a piece of property off, handshake something, said they did something, said they didn't do something, something was legal, something wasn't legal. So it's a series, it's like sticking your hand in a bowl of spaghetti and trying to come out with a handful of spaghetti. It just doesn't work that way. So yeah, that ideally, we would have loved to have been able to have something as simple as just go get an appraisal on the property. But once you start doing your due diligence and your fiduciary responsibility, you can't do that until you follow the process.
Brian,
Go ahead, Joe.
Is there a company that would do that for us? Or are you asking us to do that?
We've been working with a gentleman who can do the research. We just have to determine how far you guys want him to go and how much of it you want cleaned up.
Sure. Okay. We have, thank you very much. Thank you. We have another sub-item on the agenda here having to do with the additional property. Was that covered in what we just discussed in Michelle's presentation? Okay, good. And then before we talk about the blind offer, obviously nothing's been put on the market yet or anything, right? So.
No, I mean, we don't have the authority to do that. That's not my property. That's something you guys will have to determine the price and whether you want to market it that way.
Okay.
I mean, we can bring you the people who are willing to do those things. It's up to you guys to determine that. That's what the road you want to go down.
You said you can bring people that would do that for us?
Yeah, we've been working with people, but you know, it's again, people that have been helping us, but what do you guys want to do? That's what we need to know.
Right, so in the last meeting, I think we were pretty specific on what we want to do, and what we want to do is perfectly in line with this assembly. We want to sell a piece of property to get some money, and to do that in the proper way, we want to get an appraisal. You mentioned a title search. That's one part of anything. I mean, everybody that's bought a house here has had a title search done. It's like a rote thing you do.
But my understanding is there's title searches and then there's title searches. you can have a company do a title search and go back maybe the last title that was, done, but that doesn't, if previous titles were incorrect, then now you have what you're doing is incorrect.
Sure, and that's my experience as well. However, the last title search is the one I'm interested in.
No,
That tells me,
not in this circumstance, it is
that
not.
tells me that the title is clear. That's all we're interested in, the title search. Now, there's a lot of other things that go into an appraisal, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Determining what the easements are, and those go back to the original deeds to the property.
Okay. So really what we need is an actual appraisal company to come in and help us take the information that we have and do the appraisal.
Right, but we have to provide the appraiser with that information. They don't do he doesn't dig back into the deeds. He had his suggestion to me was that you get a survey company and they start digging back into the deeds. And we have asked the guy, you don't need a survey, it's not about them doing a survey, it's about going back and starting from the beginning and finding out, and that's where you determine who owns what, where the easements are, where the utilities are, what you can use on the property, what you can sell on the property, where you need to request or make sure that you have easement rights to a lift station. Just, selling the property as is, well, maybe that's what ends up happening, but during that process, you have to make sure that you are getting your rights that you need to that property. And that means to me, as a person who's doing research or going to sell a property, is you have to go prepared to the person who's going to buy it and know what your demands need to be or your expectations need to be. And if you don't have that information, you can't make a educated decision on how much or where you want to sell the property. I mean, that's just me personally. And so I look at it like you've got to show up to the table knowing what you got.
Okay. All right, so
Can I just finish?
quickly.
Everybody, this is Erin from our legal team. She's one of our lawyers that are on with the Carlton Group. She came here to talk about all the legal stuff. But I want to ask her, is there any insight or anything you can contribute to this that we should be looking at to give to the real estate committee or anything?
Sure. So Michelle raises a lot of really good points. You do want to know, it will be very critical to know where your easements are, what easements exist, and what easements you need to create or have created that would need to be granted if you were to sell the property. Easements are going to be one of the biggest factors that will affect how that property is used. Your covenants, conditions, and restrictions on that property, if any exist, are also important because you want to know what they are so that you understand what the value of the property is. The person who does your appraisal should have that information or have access to that information. I have worked with entities, with appraisers who do that kind of research, who do dig that far back. The process is not inexpensive when they have to do that level of research if the paperwork is not readily available. This particular piece of property has, although in terms of real estate, it's not a long history, but it sounds like it might be a somewhat complicated history. From a real estate perspective, the critical thing is what was filed in the deed records. If there were handshake deals that were never recorded in the deed records, they don't exist from a legal standpoint. Now that doesn't mean that there wouldn't be potential clouds on the title to the property if there are issues, but there's also a process that's involved where when you go through and get your title opinion, there is a review that our office typically does for any property that our clients are purchasing or selling, and we dig back in those deeds. We look at that information to make sure if there are any title objections, that we make those on your behalf. And so there is a process. Now, Jeff raised well, I don't know if it was Jeff or Scott, that raised the question, about how it affects the value. Easements that go across the property, any encumbrances on a piece of property typically will devalue the property to a certain degree because it limits what can be done on that piece of property. This piece of property, because it had the pond on it, will come, even if it has received quote unquote a clean bill of health, if you will, from TCEQ, will come, will have certain limitations on its use depending on what type of effluent was put and what type of liner, how the pond was constructed, whether it was 100% remediated or if it was covered over. There are multiple ways to remediate a piece of property that's had a former wastewater pond on it, an effluent pond, and so it would be really important to have that information because it will affect the value of the property and the future use of the property. And so, from a legal perspective, I would encourage the board to have an appraisal done, to have that background information available for the appraiser. It has the potential effect of lowering the value of the property, and you need to be aware of that. Thoroughness is important, but if they're, the kind of the references to handshake deals and other types of things, if it's not in the deed records,
well, everything
it doesn't matter.
has been a recorded deed.
Okay.
I mean, we all know those handshake deals that go on back here, but everything that we have looked at has been a recorded.
Something in the deed records.
Mm-hmm. It's all in the deed records. So,
that's good.
So it's something that is a valid deed.
Okay, let's take one person more, and then we're going to have a motion, and then we'll move on. Okay.
Aaron, in many transactions, oftentimes the buyer will accept a parcel as is, and the due diligence is on them relative to much of what is being discussed here. That's not an unusual transaction, don't you agree?
Yeah, it is very common in a hot market or under certain circumstances. Buyers, if they're motivated, they will accept property as is, and they will have those obligations, yes.
So then as a follow-up to that, does the water company bear any liability if it's doing its own due diligence relative to any of these easements and making a representation as to what it believes the easements are? And are they shifting the burden to themselves unnecessarily if you have a buyer that's reviewing as is?
That's a delicate balancing act. There could be some potential shifting of liability if the water company is aware of something that would be an encumbrance on the property that is not disclosed. All of that though, at the time you do the transaction, there are a long list of disclosures. And if they're not disclosed, you're aware and they're not disclosed, it could be a point of potential litigation if it's determined at a later date that you had an obligation to disclose it and you didn't. Now, if you're unaware of it, if the research is not done and the requirement or the onus is on the purchaser to do that research, then the liability threat is lower. It's a balance because to know what the value of the property, to get an appraisal on the property, you want to know what you need. I think for purposes of this particular instance, because you have a functioning existing piece of equipment, the easement piece of it is going to be important. You need to know what easements. If they're all of record and they're all documented, then that removes quite a few impediments. And I would be surprised if there are not existing easements, with the exception of there may not be an existing easement over the property that you already own. And that may be something that needs to be put into place.
Do we know what these prospective buyers want to do with this property?
They want to put like 4 buildings on it.
What type of buildings?
Metal, like a hangar building.
Okay, I'm not sure which perspective I am. I'm gonna close it.
Are you going to the one that I'm only going on what Vector Harris told me. That's all I'm going on. That's the only one that has spoken with me.
All right, just one more question, and then we're gonna call. This lady had her hand up first, sorry.
Thank you. I just want to express that when you're talking about easements and obligations of people to provide the information, I think our primary concern as members of the Water Corporation is to protect ourselves and our ability to use the property that we need to function. And that needs to be our primary goal. Granted, if somebody who purchased the property wants to, claim, they'll clean it up and stuff like that, as we need to protect ourselves. That's why we're so concerned.
Sure. Okay, I'm gonna call for a vote here in a moment, and I'm gonna talk, Alan, to what you wanted to say something, but I'm gonna talk to that process after this. Okay? And then we'll go on to the next item. All right, so I move that we accept the presentation and the work product of the Real Estate Committee as presented.
I second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate the hard work. All right, Alan, as far as speaking in these particular, to these particular items on the agenda, the sign-up sheet was up here at the front, right?
I heard
And
it.
I know you did, but the reason for, if you go back and look at what the prior board put in place for that, right? There's a description of how you use that sign-up sheet. And so let me just finish one thing. Thank you very much. So there are two things you can do with that sign-up sheet. Everybody here gets an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes on anything they want, not even on the agenda, right? That's one. So you sign up on the sheet for that. Each person, 3 minutes. There's no sharing of minutes described on that thing or in the Torah. Okay? The other thing is that you also, any particular person here, has 3 minutes, if they sign the sheet for such, to speak to any particular agenda item. Those are the rules.
Okay.
So
could I see the sign? Because I didn't see Mr. Hopkins' name on there. He spoke.
I got here late,
Okay, that's not my fault.
and
So-
this is a new rule.
It's actually today. No, Keith, I'm sorry. It is an old rule, you're right, and you are right to bring that up. So,
Come on up and have a seat, buddy. Come on, seriously. Come on up.
I'm fine right here.
No, right here at the table.
okay, if we could have order, okay? Thank you, Danny. I'm sorry, Alan.
I see. Thank you.
No, I appreciate that, and thank you for correcting me, you're right. So, what we should have done at the beginning of this meeting, since it was a minor correction, going back to the way we're supposed to manage those questions, we should have mentioned it at the beginning of the meeting, right when people, and we should have had that description right with the sign-up sheet, because it's attached to it.
I think he gets the point now.
Download, it's attached to
I think we all get the point now.
it. Okay, thank you.
Do you mind if I say something regarding the real estate? It's,
Here's what we'll do, okay? We'll go through the rest of the agenda. If you would like to speak at the end, you're welcome to. Okay, so we want to keep this moving along.
just the committee person.
All right, so the next
It's
item.
related
Well,
to
the
the.
next item is the real estate committee update and additional Windermere Water Board owned property.
No, we have a blind offer consideration sale of
So
property.
we did both those items? Are you saying that we did?
We did 2 of the 3
Okay,
under
two.
number 5.
Okay.
As far as
I
I
just
know.
wanted to make sure. Okay. Go ahead on the blind offer. Well, what
This
else?
one's
do you-
yours, I'm
okay.
afraid.
Okay. The blind offer consideration and sale of the property within the airport of Parsons. Everybody knows where we stood from the last meeting. I think. Correct? Yeah. Everybody clear from the June 6th meeting?
We were gonna go back and ask them for a 30-day extension.
We did that, right? We already did that.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the last meeting, we had learned that we had 3 offers, right? And we called it like a game show. We had one offer that pretty much had already expired for $1 million. We had a second offer for $800,000 with a 30-day time limit. We had a third offer of $600,000 with a 60-day limit. And so we decided to take the 30 days and try and get an appraisal done, because that was something important to everybody here. And so we did that, and so now it's...
Remember, we had an expiration date on all those offers.
All of them, yes.
Yeah.
So now I think
Different
Jeff
than
may
the
have
30
some
days.
update on anything else. It's nothing.
Nope,
Okay.
nothing.
All right, so are any of those offers still pending or
They're expired.
outstanding or
Yes.
live?
They're expired.
Would you give us an update on that?
They have all expired,
Okay,
so,
okay, very good.
yeah.
All right, is there any other,
Let's get an appraisal.
I'm sorry?
I said, let's get an appraisal.
thank you.
Even your attorney agreed.
Okay,
Okay,
so let's-
okay, yeah.
That's enough, okay, thank you.
Well,
I'm
no,
sorry.
I
have to say it. We gotta
Well,
move
I
on.
think that's a good question. Who's gonna take the lead on getting appraisal? Is it
That's-
still in the real estate committee?
This is not the debate section, right? It's not the debate.
Right, point of order.
Well, I think that from what Michelle said, there's a lot has to be done before we get an appraisal. Cleaning up get everything you know on the deeds, easements, anything else that intrudes on the value of the property. And then you can present it to an appraiser, and he'll have the knowledge. Otherwise, you're gonna be paying somebody a lot of money to dig all this information up.
Board member Scott, who's gonna take the lead on it?
Well, we'll give it to the committee.
Okay. I think we should cut it off there, okay, right? We requested some information from the real estate committee. They did their work, they presented their work product. That is the agenda item, we accepted it, we are moving on, we did the third item under number 5.
Okay.
Is there anything else there? Is there anything that needs to be done, votes or anything like, it doesn't sound like it?
No.
Because essentially, a group of people were interested in the property, they showed their concern, they brought some offers, they laid it on the table, they expired. Done deal, right? Is there anything else? Nothing, okay. Number 6?
Okay. Operational review. The people from AWR had a conflicting board meeting tonight, but they gave me their update. I will post these on the website after the meeting, so everybody can review it. Basically, a drought update. The lakes have risen a little bit. We're up to 56% in Buchanan and 42% capacity versus 37, I think, at our last meeting, so that's a good thing. The corporation is still currently in stage 2.5 of a drought contingency. So again, once per week on watering restrictions for automatic irrigation and hose and sprinkler systems between midnight and 7 a.m.
Hey, Jeff.
Midnight to 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. to midnight.
Sorry, Buchanan is at 74%, Travis is at 42%. Together, they're at 56%.
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm just reading what she wrote.
Yeah.
So it says Buchanan, which is 56%.
That's overall, that's Travis and Buchanan.
Okay, I'm just, reading what she had sent me today. The LC area is also requiring all firm water customers to adapt curtailment plan by July 1st. And they are going to give us, the board, the final draft of their curtailment plan. This is basically, this is, the LCR issues the Windermere Water Supply Corporation a monthly curtailment baseline of how much we can use for a 12-month period. Should the drought move to stage 4, not implemented now, it's only if we go into stage 4, but we need that plan given to LCRA by July 1st. The curtailment process requires a 20% reduction of water use from the monthly baselines provided. The first review of the report, they put our baseline back when the lakes were full in 2022, so that's a good thing for us that they used that as a baseline when the lakes was full. The curtailment requires a 20% reduction of water use from the monthly baseline provided. Fines will be issued for going over the curtailment, and credits will be issued if you're under 8. Again, that's only if we had stage 4. They need this report, and they said they're gonna finalize that and get it back to the board by the end of this week, which will be tomorrow. Water system distribution, they received 1 tap application and 1 sewer location on Bedford Drive. They're in the process of installing that tap. There were no leaks reported in the month of May. The board advised AWR to review the January and February's director's water loss reports that have been published with billing. They are working on that to get clarification on those numbers that were reported back in January, February. And they will report that back as soon as possible. They repaired a broken chlorine line in the pump room and replaced old chemical injectors in the chemical rooms. Majority of the bills that we pay from AWR is to maintain our system. Not maintain, it's to maintain the hard equipment that's back in our water plant. One of the backwash units of the plant's malfunctioned. After troubling, we determined that a valve needed to be replaced. We ordered a new valve and installed it, and we'll install once received. Again, that's a majority of our problems of where our cost lies. The turbidity continues to be an issue for the operators and will continue until we have a new clarifier is constructed. We are seeking board approval for the amount of $18,804 to install a new hash. That's the name of the company. Turbidity meter, chlorine analyzer, and controller to help the operators manage the level. And there's a proposal that's attached with this report. So that's what I brought up at one of the previous meetings, that they are really in need of this expenditure from us for this piece of equipment to minimize their operators' need to manage the levels as detailed as they do. We worked with the with billing to set up new phone lines for the automatic dialer at Tennis Village lift station. That's the lift station that was talked about. And the boat launch lift station, that's the one down the road that pumps into the Tennis Village lift station, and the one at Coventry Road lift station, which again pumps into that one that's beyond over there. Auto dialers are necessary as they will call out the operators when wastewater reaches a level that can cause an overfill or a spill. So it's basically a notification. Last thing is the customer service inspections of new homes. Customer service inspections were being done by a previous operator that was Corax and no longer available. They recommend using an inspection group called IO. This means they come to a new project site, make sure all the water lines are where they're at, sewer lines and such, as they are the ones who perform the CSI for other districts. The same thing, customer service inspections. The cost will be passed on to the customer. It's $86.25 per inspection, and they're looking for us to allow that to come into play. We'll have to put that on a new business item for next time. There are currently a few homes being built right now. We need to get the inspections out before we finish building at several of the inspections. They would like us to review our tap fees. They believe that our board should consider raising them and also providing a per foot charge for where the water line goes.
Is that under the tariff?
Yes, that'd be under the tariff. So what
Are we allowed to change the tariff yet?
Yes, we can. We can change the tariff on these particular fees, not rates. On these particular fees. So our tap fees, they would like us to review it. I asked them to come back with a suggestion what would be a good tap fee. It's basically their expenses. We can add on a profit. She gave me an example that one of the water districts they work with actually charges an additional $1,000 of profit on a tap.
What is our current tap fee?
I'm sorry?
What is our current tap fee?
$4,600. I think that's it.
Well, that's the buy-in.
Yeah, it's the buy-in fee. Well, that's basically your tap fee.
No, tap fee is different.
I know some places charge like $15,000.
Yeah, some people are. So they want us to raise our rates based upon what it takes for them to dig, find the water line, and then give you 5 feet of water line to tap into. But if your house is 100 feet away, or where you want to bring it in, they say include a per foot charge to the customer. So if they got to dig 20 feet, they get charged a per foot charge, which I think is a very good idea. They're claiming that the corporation may be subsidizing the difference when you get somebody that's deep into the yard. So they would like us to look at that, but they're going to bring us back. We will provide examples and comparison at the next board meeting. So they're already out. And as far as the facility studies, we are meeting with the engineer after the July 4th holiday so we can walk through the facilities, and they'll have that at our next board. That's the AWR report. I will post this online.
Anything formal we need to do with that?
Yeah, water and tap fee is $862 for the water tap, and the same as for the sewer tap, and then your membership buy-in fee is $4,600.
That's probably from '96.
Yeah, it's been a while. It is.
Happy days.
Yeah. So,
Do we need to do anything formal to accept this report? No. Okay, then the next agenda.
oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I apologize, I don't need to interrupt. Did they need approval of the proposal for the 18,804?
They said they want to, no, they said they'll be on the next board meeting.
Okay, good.
I'll put that as new business on the next board meeting.
No, we're gonna put it on as a specific item.
Yeah, well, specific. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was going to put it in a new,
Yeah.
make sure we talk about it.
Yes, okay.
Okay, the next agenda item is a legal review, and there are 4 sub-items in there.
Yeah.
I've got more than that, but I will go over them.
I think she's going to handle a bunch of them.
Okay.
If you wanna talk about, if you wanna go first, or
I can go over some of the numbers and maybe you can explain
I
some
don't
of
have the
those.
numbers, so I
Okay.
don't send out the bills, but.
Okay. Expenses for the last 30 days, which was May. Potts and Riley was $1,000. What are they covering? Shouldn't have.
It'll come to me. Hang it. You go to the next one.
Okay. The next one is AWR, $33,360. That's for running the plant and fixing everything that they find.
What was that, 33,000?
$33,360. MBB has $11,000 for accounting. That covers PUC audit work, which is discovery.
You have a number, I think you're on that number right for financial review.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Never mind. Okay.
Never mind.
We'll get to you. He was anxious.
Rosanna.
Yeah. Let's rewind back to legal.
So there are 4 items on your agenda for the legal review. You have an ongoing tax IRS audit. We met, your IRS auditor met in my office and gave us a list of specific items that he wanted to see. It was, well, it's a long page, an Excel spreadsheet of items. We have gathered that information and provided it to him. He added some some questions, and we provided that information. We provided this back on May 22nd. No additional questions since we provided that additional information have come to us. When we met with him, he had a list of additional information in addition to the numbers. His primary focus was looking at the numbers and receipts, copies of checks, copies of invoices. There is a list of 11 additional items that he wanted some narratives written, meaning explanation of what happened, how things have occurred over time. And so our office is preparing those narratives. Once we have the final drafts, we'll provide it to the board so that they can review that. And then we will be providing that information to, the gentleman's name is Mr. Romero. And so, as of now, I don't have any new information about that. As soon as, if we hear something back, once he issues his report, I will provide that to the board and they can provide that to you. In my experience, no news is good news, at least at this point. where he had a lot of questions. He was very quick to ask those. So he's continuing to do his analysis. Second sub-item is the CCN application and update with regard to PUC docket 55840. The CCN application for the piece of property that is to include 4 lots is underway. The commission has held that the staff found that the application is administratively complete. However, we are in the process of what we call discovery. So there are requests for information. We've received 2 sets of requests for information from the commission staff. We have provided responses on one of those. We are gathering the details to provide responses on the others. There are a group of your members who are also interveners in that particular process. And they have submitted some requests for information. Some of the requests, there are 3 people in my office that are working on all of your projects. You are keeping us busy. And so my colleague, Mr. Parsons, is working on this CCN matter. He provided objections to some of those requests for information because some of the requests were asking for information that is not relevant to the CCN matter. It's not that we're trying to keep information from you. It's really a matter of we want the commission to focus on the information that is directly relevant to whether or not the commission should grant this CCN amendment, meaning extending the boundaries of your service area to include this one piece of property. The analysis of that is focused primarily on whether or not Windermere Oaks Water Supply Corporation has the financial, managerial, and technical capability to provide the service. So they're looking at information such as, do you have sufficient size equipment? Do you have a board in place? Do you have an operator in place? Do you have billing processes in place to perform the functions that would be needed to add these additional customers or members to the system? And then, so that is underway. Once we get to what we will get further down the road. So this is a little different. Like, I have participated in both as an attorney representing TCEQ and on the outside representing water supply corporations and other types of entities in many contested matters before the Public Utility Commission. It's very unusual to have a CCN matter contested by someone other than the party that's seeking to have their property added. So we have not seen whether or not the commission administrative law judge is going to request that the commission send this matter to a hearing, a full hearing. It would be quite unusual to do that in this circumstance, but I have an obligation to let you know that if that does happen, then the matter would go in front of likely a State Office of Administrative Hearings administrative law judge for an administrative hearing that's kind of like a trial, a civil trial where evidence is admitted, people are cross-examined, that kind of thing. So we are waiting to see whether the commission is interested in doing that based on the information that the analysis by the staff. The next item on the agenda is your compliance docket. That has to do with the issues related to operating as a nonprofit water supply corporation, member-owned, member-controlled. The commission, the Public Utility Commission, issued an order finding that you weren't operating properly and issued a compliance agreement. And so there are several compliance requirements that our office is working with your board to gather information and provide information to the commission to show that you are making the changes to your documents, to your processes, to adopt the proper policies that are necessary to operate the way you should be operating. And so we are making progress on each of those items. because you did not have at least 3 members on your board until the beginning of June, there was a delay in doing some of those actions. But what I want to tell you is now that you have at least 3 members, and I want to encourage, if you can find 2 more, that would be better. Your bylaws say 5, so if there are folks in your community that want to participate, I would highly encourage you to find 2 more members. But once you do that, in the next 2 months, you're going to see several additional items on your agendas related to these compliance requirements, some additional policies. Once you get to the point when you have your member meeting of everyone, not just your board meetings, there are several recommendations that I have based on my review of your bylaws that need to be updated to reflect the current status of the law. And so over the next few months, you're going to see several things coming from my office that will be new policies and processes that are going to need to be put in place. 1, because it's what the law requires, and 2, it's what is being required of you through the PUC.
Can I ask a question? With regards to changing the bylaws, what have you, it's pretty simple. You would just change it to USDA.
I'm sorry,
we're not piecemealing.
I have to cut you off.
He's going to get you, Dave. You weren't here for that part.
Yeah.
At the end.
Sorry.
So the last item that's on the agenda is about your rate case. As you all know, the commission found and reduced the rates. That process is underway to issue refunds and address surcharges. There were 2 sub-dockets that came out of that case. One has to do with rate case expenses. And so the process is going to need to begin paying the previous firm that is entitled to payment of some of those rate case expenses. They were granted those. So that part is going to start happening. I will tell you that there was an additional, I filed about a month ago an order. Your former law firm had requested additional rate case expenses. I filed a motion to not have those applied. The commission staff prepared an order. It just has to go in front of the commissioners. And so we're waiting for the PUC commissioners to put this on their agenda to approve that final order that would then cut off the additional rate case expenses that were requested. But there were a significant amount of rate case expenses that were previously granted, and so the payout of those is going to start happening over time. With regard to the refunds, I was made aware today that there were some questions with regard to the accuracy and the process, some inaccuracies that may exist, and so I'm going to work with Lori to help make sure that she is accounting for appropriately who's supposed to get refunds for water, who's supposed to get refunds for sewer, and that those refunds are properly being dispersed or credited on your bill, and then where those people are not no longer active customers, to track those folks down so that because they are due those refunds. So there may need to be some adjustments and corrections made in your billing system to properly track and make sure that the right people get the right amount of refunds. This issue was raised by the PUC staff as well, so they had some questions about this, and so we're going through and we're going to look at that part closer to make sure that the billing system is properly crediting or allocating those refunds based on the type of service that was in play at the time that those rates were collected. So that's all I have for my report, unless you have questions for me.
Anything needs to be accepted or voted?
No, I don't think so.
No, that's certainly
Good.
for this item.
Yeah, that was a good update. Thank you.
Oh, they said they're going to take the previous law firms and start, they can put this on the rates, how are they gonna get paid?
So, your accountants, whoever pays your bills, I think it's Lori that does part of that, you're going to have to start paying out on a monthly basis, remitting payments to that prior law firm to start paying them back for the rate case expenses that they earned during the pendency of the case. The commission granted a very specific amount down to the penny, and I need to look to see if the agreement is finalized and in place with regard to the timing of the payout. Typically, when you have rate case expenses, a lot of times the law firm wants all of their money all at once right then. Because of the amount of rate case expenses that were granted, my understanding is that there's an agreement that instead of paying in one lump sum, that those will be allowed to be paid to them over time. And so when I have the details, I'll make sure that if I'm not here, of course, Jeff or your board have those details so they can explain to you over how many months their payment is going to take. Payment of rate case expenses is handled a little differently than refunds and surcharges, right? The refunds are money that's credited to you. The surcharges are amounts that are charged to you for those rate case expenses, right? So you get charged a little every month to help pay these rate case expenses, pay the lawyer's fees, and they've agreed to accept payment of the money that's owed to them over time.
So Aaron, a question on that. So what you're saying is the surcharge that we're collecting, the legal surcharge on our bill, the $39.21, which goes on everybody's bill.
Yes.
For 45 months.
That's right.
We need to start paying that amount of money back to the law firm.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that money cannot sit in your coffers. It needs to be collected and remitted monthly until the total amount that is owed to them is paid.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't think there was ever an agreement unless, because they signed, because is the commission making that agreement with the former law firm?
No, sir.
We don't have anything in place. We don't have an instrument in place.
Okay.
To pay back LG, just to let you know.
Okay. So if there's not an agreement in place existing, I received some correspondence from your former counsel about an agreement, and so that too will be on an upcoming agenda for the board to consider.
Let's put that on the agenda.
Yep.
We anticipated it, but it was never carried through, and such. So everybody be aware that, is there a start date on that? You know?
The money is due and owing already. And so we will bring.
Nope.
It's part of your.
Yeah, this is part of the original order that came down in
There'll
February.
be even less coming in than we had.
Oh my God, yes. You know, well, no, we get the same amount from the members, but we got to immediately go pay that out.
That's what I mean.
That's what we
Yes, that $39 is not money that's intended to stay in the corporation. It is collected specifically so that the legal fees
More
can
of
be
a
paid.
minus every month.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Stated that
That's
for a
all I
while.
have to do.
Thank you very much.
You all good?
Something else?
No. Okay. Just saying thank you.
So we'll move on.
Thank you, Darren. Yeah. Okay.
All right, Scott.
Now you can talk.
Now we're financials. Okay, we're great. Well, I'm glad it's not my bank.
So before you proceed, is this an actual formal financial report for the month or a particular period?
This has to do with for the month of May. I can give what's doing for the.
Are we looking at a particular period?
Yes.
The month of May?
1 to 31 of May.
Thank you.
We have a checking balance. Checking balance tonight is $114,674. Less open payables, which yields operating funds of $81,959, which is like about $82,000. Our money market balance tonight is $196,814, of which $53,793 is usable for operations. A lot of that money is already tied up. The rest is required for emergency reserves and is retained. co-bank loan balances for our capital investments. Revenue generated from May operations was $26,133, with receivables of $8,163, which equals a total of $34,297 earned as revenue. The expenses the last 30 days were $85,333. So that's open payables of $22,614 to be paid within 7 days. Expenses include.
I don't mean to interrupt you. Did everybody hear that?
We heard it. I'd like to hear the breakdown.
Yeah.
Okay.
The breakdown's coming up. The expenses were $1,000 for Potts and Riley.
That's it.
I think that's the audit. That's the audit.
Another attorney.
Auditing.
No, that's not the, that's not an attorney.
Well, Potts and Riley is the attorney, and it was probably because Renee forgot about the bylaw change meeting that he was supposed to attend.
Potts and
Riley, that's Frank Riley, the attorney.
Oh, good, yeah. Yeah,
Or she
that's a
that
payable.
could have still been good for the motion.
Yeah.
So this is Frank, right? Okay.
We have.
That's from the.
All right, AWR operations was $33,360. MBB has $11,000 for in accounting for PUC audit work and IRS audit. Carlton has $35,737 for PIA work, PUC response, and IRS audit.
For 1 month?
For 1 month. The IRS audit for both of those, MBB and Carlton, comes to around $7,000. That leaves $28,000 for the PUC responses and the PIA responses. $28,000 in a month.
This is the audit.
LCRA is $659. TWRA is $1825, and billing services is $3577. So our total expenses, as we started off, was $85,333. For the water operations, we pumped 937,000 gallons. 930,000 gallons were sold. The water loss was 2,800 gallons of 302 accounts, 17 accounts of 302 accounts, 17 used 225,000 of the 937, which is 30% of the total usage and accounts for 15% of revenue. So there could be some changes in the tariff too.
What?
I'm not concerned.
And that is the report, the financial report.
And who prepared that?
It came from Renee. Is that a problem?
Oh, no. We're perfectly happy.
You're not supposed to be talking right now.
In the future, there are a lot of numbers there. In the future, I'd like to ask a couple of things of Renee. That it be provided in the meetings on a piece of paper enough for everybody to have a copy. Better that it be provided as a download from the website ahead of the meeting so that people can get a look at it, decipher it, and come prepared to make comments in the
We can
formal comment section.
We can post this to the website.
You can or cannot?
I can.
Cannot.
I can.
Oh,
I
I did mention again.
We also have all the P&L, balance sheets, and income statements. January, February, March, April, and May, which will go on the website after this meeting.
Okay. So we've been working on that as well.
You don't have to make a motion.
So good.
Now, one note of clarification on here. The Carlton invoice. That was actually for 2 months. That was May and June.
Oh,
Yeah, it was. I'm sorry?
June isn't over, is what she said.
No, June, April and May, sorry. It was April and May. So it was April and May billing got us up to speed with them.
Yeah.
So, okay.
All right, that's the report. Does that need to be accepted formally, voted in or anything like that? Okay. All right, we'll work on that.
I don't know if we should have a discussion about it or not, but, it's some pretty sad numbers.
All right, then at this point, thank you very much for that, for conveying that information. At this point, I'd like to ask Michelle if she still has a question that she'd like to.
It wasn't a question, it was a comment, and it was from the real estate committee, and we don't have an answer to this question, and that was whether or not we should be selling property that our utility sits on. And that's the lift station. And whether or not that, a piece of that property that encompasses that lift station should be retained in the ownership of the Water Supply Corporation. And we don't know if there's TCQ guidelines on that. We don't know if it is sold as part of that parcel of property. What has to go, requests have to be made to the new owners, whether we have to lease the property back from them. And those were questions that we had that we did not have an answer for. But throwing it out there.
Thank you very much.
Michelle, do you guys have the survey? Any surveys?
No, we don't have a survey.
Okay.
So that's not a separate plot yet, right? In other words, we couldn't sell it or distinguish it separately from the rest of the report.
I think it is, but
Is it?
I have to go look. It's been a while since
I don't remember seeing it on the county.
I mean, you did a lot of the upfront work. You and Judy did a lot of the upfront work in January.
Where's the point of order?
So,
I don't remember seeing it.
Do you have a point of order?
Point of order.
Do you have a point of order?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Stick with the agenda.
Fair enough.
it's just answering Michelle's question. Okay.
All right, so thanks everyone for that. We're at the point where we have new business. So essentially, from anybody here, if you have something that you'd like to talk about in the future, what we will do is the only conversation we will provide in response to that is just enough to understand what it is so that it can be documented and discussed potentially in a future meeting. So let's open the floor to new business.
I want to point blank this one to Erin when I'm going to come off of what she said earlier about the billing, checking into the billing. I don't know if anybody else here, because I didn't get to attend the last meeting, but my bill this last month didn't include any usage. I had 0 gallons.
Mine didn't either.
Yeah, so back to your financials, I'm just pointing this out to the board. How many bills were done like that this last month? I mean, I paid a $34 bill. I'm not complaining, but I have the feeling you're somewhere gonna catch up with me this month.
Yeah.
And then that question goes to the breakdown on the tier on the gallons. That isn't fair either. I've been here 4 years of bills and never ever had one that was 0 gallons. I've always normally paid minimum bill.
Yeah, these are things we need to look into. This is.
I'm just pointing that out as
great.
to come off of what Erin made a comment.
These are things that these were identified. These were identified in what the CCN.
What does CCN stand for? Certificate of Convenience and Necessity. It's a long way to say this is your service area.
Right. And that's regarding the 4 lots across Exeter. Well, just to go on to that. What? I know. Well, I'm just going on new business. But yeah.
If there are issues that need to be addressed, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Go.
Regarding billing, that don't necessarily need to be, whether it needs to be discussed in the next meeting, the board can deal with that issue, but the board's also going to need to deal with billing.
If we have any billing issues, please send a note to WSC and let them know the concern that you had with your bill.
Would that be the Lori?
That would be the Lori.
And Lori has just now been acknowledged that she understands.
Yeah. Yeah. She's working on several of these that have been identified. So, and we're doing a complete audit of every account. So.
Oh, crap.
So doesn't
Yours is
AWR
first.
does AWR do the meter reading?
Yes.
Okay. So it could be part of AWR's problem too.
When are the non-members' funds be expected to be returned?
We are going to try to work on that project in the month of July. And anything that was back in the last 90 days, there'll be a true up. Yes. So.
Other new business?
Is there an option to do the USDA bylaws? I mean, isn't that an option?
We've looked at it. There's some changes you need to make to the USDA
So I'm
bylaws.
gonna stop you from talking about the item and read and put it on the next
We'll
agenda.
put it on the next agenda.
How about a survey?
Say it again.
How about a survey? I think that's what was discussed with the real estate committee. Discuss a survey at the next meeting.
What type of survey?
The survey for the
For the
company.
4 acres.
And whether or not,
Survey
whether or not
of
the
actual
list
property.
can be removed as a separate partial, a separate plat.
Property owned by the WSC.
Okay. Others?
You're gonna reinstitute the comment period for each agenda item.
Yeah.
Probably a helpful way to do that rather than having the sign-up sheet up there where people have to come up and interfere with business. Typically, the protocol at governmental and semi-governmental entities is to have the sheets off to the side. Late arrivals can sign up on it, and then a board member grabs each next item, and then you have the list without interfering on board business.
Right, so Keith, what I heard is just position it somewhere where it's not interrupting the flow.
That's correct. That's typically the way that's done.
Okay, just
Could we also look at maybe doing it at the end of the meeting?
sign up for one.
No, the public
No,
comments.
yeah, the public comments, moving that to the very end.
No.
That gives people a chance to listen to what we're going to talk about and comment on it there. Just throwing in our,
I think we have options to do that.
Legally, you can have the public comment period about non-agenda items at the end. You are required to allow someone to speak on an agenda item before you take any vote on that item.
Okay.
So it's customary that as a particular agenda item comes up, if someone has signed up to speak on that item, they speak about the item, then you consider your item, and then you take your vote.
okay, so,
The last person to move public comment to the end of the meeting was Joe Jimenez. I suggest not doing it. Thanks.
well, I think there's a hybrid here, Danny, and that would be allowing public comment, did I hear you correctly, on an agenda item, while the agenda item is being discussed.
As long as
That's
they're
public.
listed.
Yeah, as long as
The
it's
agenda item
listed.
listed.
So we have that capability. And then any other public comment that is not agenda item could happen at the end of the meeting.
That's right. You can do it that way.
You can't do it that way. I'm just wondering, is that,
Is that more useful?
I don't know, is that more useful?
That's
No,
what we,
because people can come and comment and walk out the door and leave.
Well, that particular part of the meeting is for any topic at all, including anybody who lives in New Hampshire, if they happen to be here. Right, so it can go anywhere in the meeting because it's just for people to speak.
It was always in the beginning
Yep.
until Jimenez, and then it looks
No,
like
that's a new business.
you're thinking.
Well, it can be anywhere,
That's a new business.
and you can say anything, pretty much.
Jeff, I want to make a comment. On the POA board, we moved to basically what Aaron just said, which works out great. Basically, the board goes through to put up the motion, and then before the board goes into discussion, we let
You
the
discuss
public.
it per item.
We
Right.
let the public discuss it, then we come back and discuss it on the board and do a vote.
Yeah.
And that has been working. Josie's with me on the.
And then I think the hybrid would be at the end of the agenda, anything else that anybody wants to bring up. You know,
Do you allow comments?
public comment, like you say, a guy from New Hampshire wants to.
Well, if they have another 3 minutes, they can talk about anything they want.
Yeah, exactly.
On the POA, do you have comments about anything not on the agenda?
We've been doing that on the front end, like
On the front
we
end.
started today.
I like what we're doing.
You know, if people ask questions at the beginning of the meeting, as the meeting's going on, something comes up and you have a question, then you're not gonna let them talk about it, you know?
You get to
That's
And
right.
at the end too,
That's right.
I guess at the end too, you could.
You know, actually, if I recall reading Toma correctly, after everyone has had an opportunity to speak, and you go through the agenda, it's up to the board what they want to do at that point, right? It's just that for each agenda item, you are limited to 3 minutes per our rules we can up that to whatever, but I don't suggest we do that. I think 3 minutes is good.
The POA does public comment at the beginning, correct? Okay.
I know I was late, but are we looking to actually put this property on the market before or after? I know I was late, but are we looking to are we looking to list it, I guess is what I'm saying.
I'd love to list it.
Yeah, go find a buyer.
I'm just saying, if you put it with a real estate agent, you might.
We're doing a process here, Josie.
Okay, so
Michelle had
Certification.
laid it all out.
So it would be after is my, I guess my answer. That's fine.
So, yeah, we'll definitely look into that. At the beginning of the meeting, we discussed what we had hoped would have occurred when we started the meeting. It didn't quite turn out that way. There are reasons for it. If you go back and watch the video, you'll get the background there. But we'd love to sell a piece of property to help us out. Okay, so it is time to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Yay.
Aye. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Whoever's calling that,
So-
make sure they call it on.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I got
Thank you, Aaron.
All right, I know all of that. What I'm asking is what's the action?
Okay, fine.
Special call. I guess.